After nearly 4 decades as husband and wife, you convince yourself there are no mysteries left. You learn the tiny habits, how they tap the teaspoon on the rim of the mug, the breath that means they're thinking deeply, the way their sleeves get pushed to the elbow when a serious conversation is coming. Like, comment, and subscribe Huna Stories for more stories. For 37 years, I believed I understood Richard down to the core, and I assumed he knew me the same way. But buried truths have a strange persistence. They always surface eventually. It began on a quiet Sunday afternoon. The house was peaceful, the kind of quiet that only comes after a lifetime of routine. Richard was sunk into his favorite chair with the newspaper, glasses sliding toward the end of his nose. I was across from him, pretending to work on my knitting. My hands were too unsteady to even hold the needle properly. My heartbeat muffled the tick of the clock. "Rich?" I said, barely above a breath. He lifted his head, and that familiar, gentle smile, the one from when we were young, crossed his face. "I need to tell you something." He folded the paper, set it beside him, and gave me his full attention. "You sound serious." "I am." For weeks, I had practiced this moment in the mirror, in prayers, in silent midnight rehearsals. But when the moment arrived, the words clung to my throat. I stared at the ring on my finger, worn gold, dulled by decades. "There's something I never told you," I said, not because I wanted to lie, but because I was scared. Richard leaned forward. His eyes didn't harden or flinch. "Scared of what?" he asked. "Of losing us." He didn't interrupt. Like, comment, and subscribe Huna Stories for more stories. He simply waited. He always knew how to give me space to find my courage. "I had a baby girl," I whispered, "before you, before our life started." The sentence hung in the space between us like a feather that suddenly became too heavy to hold. He blinked. "What? A daughter?" I nodded, barely able to speak. "I was 17. My parents sent me to Ohio to stay with relatives. They arranged an adoption. When I returned home, they said I must never mention it again, so I never did. But I thought about her every single day." Silence filled the room like fog. Only the steady ticking of the clock proved time had not stopped. Finally, Richard spoke quietly, almost tenderly. "Why tell me now?" "Because she found me," I whispered. "Her name is Emily. She's 40. She wants to see me, and she wants to meet you, too." He closed his eyes and leaned back, letting the truth settle. "All these years," he murmured, "you held this alone." Tears stung my eyes. I was terrified you'd see me differently, like someone broken. He opened his eyes again. There was no anger, only sadness. A sadness for the weight I carried in silence. "You think I married perfection?" he said softly. "Helen, I married a human being, someone who lived and survived and tried her best. I just wish you'd trusted me sooner." A sob burst out of me, helpless and raw. I didn't know how I managed. He reached across the coffee table and took my shaking hand. "Then begin now," he said. "Tell me everything." So I did. I told him about the hospital, about the tiny newborn I never got to hold, about the letters I wrote and hid in a box, about how Emily's voice wavered with fear and hope when she called me. When I finished, the rain had begun to fall outside. After a long, quiet moment, he spoke again. "I'm not angry," he said, "just heartbroken that you never believed I could love all of you." I covered my face and cried. "I thought I was protecting you." "No," he said gently, "you were protecting yourself." That truth pierced me, but it was right. We sat there for a long time, hands interlocked, two old souls who had finally run out of secrets. The next morning, the air in the house felt lighter, as if honesty itself had cracked the windows open. I woke before Richard and lay there listening to his breathing. My body felt empty, but in a peaceful way, like space had finally been made for air. When he woke, I asked softly, "Do you want to meet her?" He rubbed his brow. "Do you?" "Yes, I need to." He nodded. "Then I should too." "You don't have to," I whispered. "She's part of your life," he said, "which means she's part of mine." 3 days later, at a lakeside cafe, I saw Emily walk in. I recognized her instantly. She had my mother's eyes, nervous, hands clutching her purse. "Hi," she said. "Hi," I breathed. My hands trembled so badly, Richard steadied them beneath the table. "You look exactly the way I pictured," she said shyly. "And you?" I choked out. You look like home. She told us she simply wanted to understand where she came from. She'd had a loving upbringing, but always carried a missing piece. We talked for hours. Her childhood, her job as a teacher, her 2 children, my grandchildren. When she showed me a photo of them, freckled, bright smiles, I broke. Not from sadness, from gratitude. The life I thought was gone had found its way back. When we left, Richard and I sat in the car and watched the sky turn orange. She's wonderful, he said. She is, I whispered. He looked at me and took my hand again. You've punished yourself long enough, he said. I blinked. Punished? Yes, you believed silence protected strength, but it only stole peace. My throat tightened. How do you forgive this so easily? He smiled faintly. Because you stood beside me through every storm, because we all lived a life before each other, and because I love you now, after everything. We drove home in a soft, healing silence. That night, moonlight filled the kitchen. Richard wrapped his arms around me from behind. You were brave today, I said. So were you. He kissed my forehead. You know what's strange, he murmured. I thought after all these years, nothing could surprise me anymore. I laughed, shaky but real. Turns out, I whispered back, we're still discovering each other. He smiled. Good, he said. That means there's still more to love. Thanks for listening. Like, comment, and subscribe Huna Stories for more stories.